The Karelian science vessel Varak was not designed for mystery, it was built for charting radiation belts, analyzing mineral fields, and cataloging anomalies. But when it intercepted a repeating signal from a desolate star system on the outer fringe of the Orion expanse, routine was discarded. Commander Eric, a grizzled veteran with 3 decades of exploration under his belt, hesitated as he reviewed the data. The signal wasn't a natural phenomenon. It pulsed with mathematical precision, emitted on a frequency so archaic it hadn't been used in thousands of standard cycles. The source, a crumbling orbital station, half devoured by meteoroids and cosmic dust. Its design didn't match any known civilization. No one on the crew recognized the signature. That's when Eric summoned Ulana Dravik, linguist and xenohistorian, known for his work decoding dead languages. The four-eyed scholar was ecstatic. The crew approached the station cautiously. It was dead in every way that mattered: no heat signatures, no life signs, no automated defense systems. Yet its signal remained active, looping endlessly, as if it had been waiting. Inside, the station was a tomb. Corroded bulkheads, fossilized airlocks, shattered consoles. Time had reduced the place to echoes of something ancient. But deep in its core, one chamber remained sealed and surprisingly intact. It was from here the signal emanated. They found a black cube slightly warm to the touch, still humming with power. It was plugged into a skeletal communications array. Yulan connected his translation system and began decoding the language. It wasn't easy. The characters were jagged, angular, almost brutalist in form. They didn't align with any council species dialects. After 2 days of intense analysis, a breakthrough came. Yulan deciphered the basic structure. It was an ancient Terran dialect, Earth. Standard English, Earth? Eric muttered, scratching a mandible. The Death World myth? There were references to Earth in council archives, always secondhand, always vague. It had once hosted a sentient species, humans, supposedly. Rumors spoke of incredible power, of wars that burned stars, of treaties signed with extinction as the price of failure. Some reports claimed the humans had disappeared voluntarily. Others said they'd been wiped out. All agreed on one thing. The records were intentionally buried, redacted, or lost. Yulan pushed forward with the translation, and finally, the looping message played out in full. This is the last of our sentinels. If you find this, heed the ancient pact. Never wake what sleeps on Earth. The words sent a chill across the bridge. Is this a threat? Asked Lieutenant Savrak, voice hushed. No, Yulan said slowly. This is a warning, a plea. The implications hit hard. Some entity older than current civilization had feared what was on Earth enough to set up this relay station at the edge of known space, broadcasting one message across eternity. They had gone through the trouble of encoding it in a universal pattern, meant to survive the collapse of empires. YRIK ordered the data sent to the Galactic Council's Exploratory Directorate. A council meeting was convened within days. Representatives from the 10 core species debated the discovery. Theories abounded. Some wanted Earth left alone. Others saw opportunity, and ancient power meant potential. Lost technology. Forgotten. Science. But it was the Arxax delegate, a species that remembered pain vividly, who said what no one else would. If someone built this warning and placed it here far from the system itself, what were they trying to keep us away from? And more importantly, why did they need to? The Council's decision came quickly: investigate. A diplomatic research ship, the Argelis, was dispatched to the coordinates of Earth. YRIK, and Yulan watched it vanish into subspace from the Varak's observation deck. Neither spoke for a long while. Finally, Yulan said, I don't think they'll find ruins. Eric turned to him, bro plates raised. No? I think they'll find sleepers, Yulon said, voice low. And we've just nudged the cradle. Above them, the black cube on the derelict station continued to broadcast into the void, its final warning reverberating across the stars. Never wake what sleeps on Earth. The Argelis, a sleek, silver-hulled diplomatic explorer, was selected for its precision and adaptability. Its mission: reach Earth, survey, document, and if possible, make contact. Commander Arlen Trell, a seasoned diplomat from the Council's pacifist alien species, led the expedition with measured optimism. She believed in reason, in dialogue, and in the power of knowledge. But even she couldn't ignore the warning etched into every record they'd found. Never wake what sleeps on Earth. The journey through subspace took 4 days. As the stars blurred around them, tension built aboard the ship. The crew, composed of 10 species engineers, scientists, linguists, and military advisors, whispered about the ancient stories. Some dismissed Earth as an old myth. Others spoke of it like a ghost world. But every crew member aboard knew one thing: Earth was under quarantine, and had been for millennia. As Argelis exited subspace near the Sol system, the first surprise came quickly. Earth was still there. Vibrant, alive in a way only Class 5 biospheres could be. Blue oceans, swirling clouds, lush green continents. But more than that, it was quiet. Too quiet. Their scans revealed a planet that should have been dead from war or collapse. Instead, it was untouched. No pollution, no orbital clutter, no ship traffic. And yet, no signs of civilization either. Not above ground, at least. Ancient cities remained: New York, Shanghai, Rio de Janeiro, Johannesburg, and others intact but overgrown. No craters, no damage from orbital strikes. No evidence of collapse by disease or famine. The buildings hadn't crumbled. They had simply been left behind, as though civilization had hit pause. "It's not a ruin," whispered Chief Analyst Dareth, staring at the display. "It's a preserved world." Like a museum or a tomb, Trell's heart raced. Something was deeply wrong and yet fascinating. Earth hadn't been destroyed. It had been sealed in silence. They sent drones down first. The drones found no resistance. Streets were empty. Skyscrapers stood, their glass weathered but still catching sunlight. Grass cracked through concrete. Statues stood untouched. Machines were frozen in time. On one rooftop, a meal tray still sat beside a chair. On another, a telescope pointed toward the stars. Then they found the entrances. Beneath the cities, massive elevators and hidden access points led underground into vaults that defied understanding. Entire megastructures buried beneath the crust. Self-sustaining, shielded, powered by fusion and geothermal cores that were still running. Trell gave the order. She, along with a team of 5 including Xanthorian biologist Dr. Mevriel and security officer Joruan, descended into the depths. Below a city identified by the ruins as New York, what they found turned fascination into awe and fear. Vast underground. Chambers stretched for kilometers. Clean corridors, functional lighting, air composition ideal for human respiration. And within those chambers, rows upon rows of stasis pods. Millions of them. Positioned with perfect precision, each one containing a single human. They didn't die. Mevriel said, her voice barely a whisper. They chose this. The pods were advanced. Beyond anything the Council had. They monitored each occupant's vitals, cellular decay, neural activity. Every human inside was alive, sleeping, preserved in a way that suggested not only technological superiority but complete intent. Why had they done it? There were signs, holographic panels, preserved. Data tablets, interface terminals, but they were locked in human code. Dr. Meverill was ecstatic. This changes everything. This is the genesis of our understanding of pre-council intelligence. But Jeruin wasn't so sure. If they went to sleep willingly, it was for a reason. People don't entomb their entire species unless they have to. Trell scanned the chamber with quiet dread. Some of the pods were marked with titles: Commander, Engineer, Historian, Strategist. Some had seals, military insignias. One stood out, pod number 001, placed alone on a raised platform, surrounded by holograms locked behind red security fields. Hadn't buried their dead, they had prepared for something. Back aboard the Argellus, debate broke out. Some crew wanted to leave and report back. Others argued they needed answers. Meverill argued passionately to wake a single subject to learn, to ask why, to see what humanity had become. Trell hesitated. She believed in diplomacy, but also caution. But the truth was simple and terrifying. This wasn't an abandoned world. It was a waiting world. They had found Earth not in ruin, but in slumber. Something far older than any council record had built this chamber, placed their people here, and sealed them in. Trell stared at pod number 001, heart pounding. What kind of species puts itself to sleep, and what would happen if they woke up? The question would soon be answered. The debate aboard the Argellus fractured the crew. Commander Trell remained firm in her hesitation. Waking a human, especially when every ancient warning screamed not to, was dangerous beyond reason. But curiosity, pride, and ambition are ancient vices, and among the crew, none burned with it more than Dr. Mevril. Dr. Meverill was a Xanthorian, a race known for their unshakable scientific fervor and near-fanatical pursuit of knowledge. To her, the stasis vaults of Earth were not tombs. They were answers. This is the most intact pre-council civilization we've ever encountered, she said during the emergency briefing. This isn't a war zone. There's no threat. These people chose stasis. That implies control, not violence. Trell argued otherwise. If they had such mastery of technology, such capability to put billions to sleep, why? What power were they keeping in check? What could scare an apex deathworld species into voluntarily disappearing? Meverill countered. That's exactly why we must ask one of them. In the end, Meverill didn't wait for approval. Late during the second planetary cycle, she and two assistants descended back into the vault without orders. She bypassed security locks with her own team's AI decryption tools. She knew which pod. She wanted .pod #1. It was different, larger, more shielded. Unlike the others, it was marked with the insignia of a Terran military division and sealed with multiple biometric locks. But Meverill had studied enough of the language by now. The title on the pod was unmistakable: Prime Strategos, Marcus Cale. She triggered the revival sequence. Alarms began immediately, quiet internal ones. Not screams of failure, but whispers of awakening. The pod hissed, releasing pressurized gases that hadn't been disturbed in over 10,000 years. Inside, the human stirred. Marcus Cale opened his eyes. The room filled with silence. He didn't panic, didn't gasp. Instead, his expression was one of calm calculation. He sat up slowly, muscles responding without stiffness, eyes sweeping across the three alien figures in front of him. His gaze was sharp, unblinking. Meverill stepped forward, palms raised in greeting. Cale spoke first. How long? Meverill's translator chirped, offering approximately 10,000 standard galactic cycles. Cale blinked once, then nodded. He stood with practiced ease. He wasn't confused. He wasn't afraid. He was processing. Then he asked his second question. Is the galaxy still standing? Meverill hesitated, confused by the phrasing. Yes. The Council of Systems governs over 6,000 species. Peace reigns. Kale didn't respond immediately. He simply walked past her, moving to a nearby console embedded in the wall. Somehow, the system still responded to his presence. A code was entered, fast and precise. Data flickered across the terminal human text, unreadable to Mevril. He confirmed. Something. Then, without pause, sent a signal. High above, Argelis detected it, an encrypted burst transmission sent through subterranean planetary relays and up into orbit. It traveled through dormant satellites, bouncing from node to node, reactivating Terran infrastructure unseen by alien eyes. And in the chambers below the surface, millions of stasis pods lit up. They began to open. Commander Trell was woken from sleep by a bridge officer's scream. The vaults, they're waking them all. Chaos broke out aboard Argelis. Emergency thrusters were engaged. The ship began to pull away from orbit, desperate to avoid being trapped by planetary defenses. 2. Late dot above Earth, long-dead orbital platforms powered back on. Ancient weapon systems swiveled into position not to fire, but to scan. Proximity beacons activated. Satellites realigned. Defense grids locked into planetary sync. In the underground vault, Marcus Kale stood calmly, watching his people wake. Some wept. Others stood at attention. Medical teams moved instinctively. Systems came back online like they'd rehearsed it 1,000 times. It wasn't panic, it was execution. A practiced reawakening. Me Vril watched it all in stunned silence. She asked, softly, "Why were you asleep?" Kale turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Because the galaxy wasn't ready for us." "And now?" Kale stared at her for a long moment. "Now the galaxy will remember." Above, Argelis made the jump to subspace, barely escaping before Earth's outer system lit up with dormant fleet ping signals not meant for aliens, but for other humans. Lost colonies, long-range probes, deep vault II sleeper fleets. Humans had not just slept, they had prepared. And now, they were awake. Earth had not merely survived. It had waited. In the days following the awakening of Marcus Kale, the full scope of what the humans had prepared became terrifyingly clear to the galaxy. The Council of Systems watched with paralyzed awe as Earth reactivated itself, not through violence, not through conquest, but with mechanical, terrifying precision. In orbit, ancient Terran satellites came alive, broadcasting encrypted pulses that bypassed Council firewalls entirely. Every ship that approached was scanned with forensic intensity. Entire swarms of defensive drones emerged from orbital vaults previously mistaken for asteroid debris. The drones didn't attack, but they made one thing abundantly clear. No ship enters without permission. Back on the surface, billions of stasis pods opened across hundreds of underground cities. Humanity, long dormant, walked once more under the sun. There was no chaos, no hunger, no disease. Medical systems flickered to life as if the humans had only taken a short nap. Food supplies synthesized themselves automatically. AI-controlled distribution systems handled logistics. Old infrastructure integrated seamlessly into a newly awakened society. To the Council, it defied logic. The humans hadn't just planned for survival. They had orchestrated a full planetary restoration. Time to reactivate on command. At the center of it all stood Strategos Marcus Kale, now surrounded by a quickly forming command council. Scientists, engineers, military commanders, and historians all awakened with Kale's signal assembled at his side. Humanity didn't ask what year it was. They asked what the galaxy had become. Council probes attempting to observe the surface were either jammed or redirected. One that made it through captured terrifying footage. humans running training exercises within hours of waking, simulations, war games, weapons testing. It was as if Earth had never stopped preparing for war, but no fleet left orbit, no missiles launched, no ultimatums were issued, and that scared the Council even more. Commander Trell, now returned to Council space, stood before the Council Assembly. Her report was short, emotionless, clinical, and it sent waves of panic through every species in the room. They didn't forget, she said quietly. They didn't decay. They slept by choice and they woke with purpose. The Arxax ambassador, a war-born species with instincts honed by centuries of conflict, leaned forward. Did they threaten you? No, Trell replied. They thanked. Use for waking them. But the way Kale said it didn't feel like gratitude. It felt like a closing door. Council High Command debated for hours. Arm fleets, negotiate, send peace envoys. But before any decision could be finalized, Earth made its first move. They sent a single message, in every major galactic language, pulsed across every major relay. We are awake. We remember. We remain sovereign, and we are watching. Do not approach Earth. Do not threaten Terran space. Do not forget the cost. You were warned. And beneath the signature was something far more chilling, a PFSN chilling. Historical TIMESTAMP.galactic, year minus 14,833. The end of the last human. War. The date meant nothing to most species. But for the historians, especially those from the Archivist Guild, it was a red alert. That war had been erased from Council memory. Redacted. Classified, but fragments had survived. Whispers of entire star systems turned to glass. Species made extinct. AI that self-destructed in fear of Terran retaliation. And then humanity had vanished, not in defeat, but in withdrawal. Now, the galaxy understood. The humans hadn't been destroyed. They had placed themselves into hibernation, trusting that time would either tame the stars or provide them a reason to return. The reason, apparently, had arrived. As the Council scrambled to respond, something else happened. Something subtle. Old Terran colonies began to respond to Earth's reawakening. Deep space. Signals echoed from forgotten coordinates. Outposts hidden in black dwarf systems. Generation ships, long believed lost, reactivated navigation beacons. AI-controlled arc fleets, thought to be myths, changed course toward Sol. Humanity wasn't just back. It was rallying. Across Council space, panic grew. 100 alien media networks exploded with speculation. Some praised the return as a miracle. Others screamed that war was inevitable. But no one could ignore one fact. The Death Worlders from Earth had not come back as conquerors. They came back as watchers. And that was worse. Because while war you could predict, and peace you could prepare for, silence from a reawakened superpower was a blade held at the throat of the galaxy. Waiting. The galaxy had long forgotten fear, not the kind felt in skirmishes or border conflicts, but the cold, evolutionary dread that came from knowing something older, stronger, and smarter was watching and remembering. That fear returned in waves. As Earth remained quiet, alert, and ever watchful. Council fleets withdrew from the Sol sector. Not by mandate, but by instinct. Every patrol, every probe, every automated scan that approached the outer boundary of Terran space was greeted by the same unspoken message. You've been seen. No shots were fired. No demands issued. But star systems close to Earth's sphere of influence began reporting anomalies, subtle disturbances in gravitational fields, long-dormant satellites rebooting with unknown firmware, listening posts picking up encrypted. Terran pulses encoded in lost data formats. Earth didn't expand. It didn't need to. It simply woke up and the galaxy began shifting around it. Within a month, other forgotten Terran colonies, those assumed lost or collapsed, signaled back. The humans had seeded more than planets. They had planted contingencies, silent fortresses inside black holes, AI sleeper fleets hidden in deep cryogenic drift, terraforming systems set to awaken on Earth's signal. Now, all of it was coming online. Stratago's Marcus Cale convened a new high command. Beneath the icy surface of Europa, beneath Martian citadels, and in ancient Terran bunkers buried deep in the Pacific Trench, command centers activated. But the humans didn't declare war. They declared remembrance. All across the galaxy, species received a single message delivered via relic beacon relays, ancient council ruins, even long-abandoned outposts. We remember the wars you don't. We remember the peace you broke. We remember the betrayals, the silence, the exile. We chose sleep, not surrender. We warned you. And now you've forgotten. So remember again. At first, the message was dismissed as propaganda. But then came the history. The humans began releasing records unedited and undeniable. Battle footage from wars so old the Council had no memory of them. Images of galactic fleets shattered, of human warforms marching across scorched alien moons. Audio from once mythical diplomatic conferences where Terran ambassadors offered peace, and were met with assassination attempts, and most disturbing of all, footage showing the humans' final retreat, how they had sealed themselves away, not out of fear, but out of disgust. They had looked upon a galaxy that rejected balance and made a singular decision: let them rise. Let them fall. We'll return when the stars have forgotten us. And the stars had forgotten. Until now. Suddenly, ancient ruins on Council worlds began reacting. Worlds like Ikaron, Yeltra, and Vos are known for their ancient, unsolvable puzzles lit up. Glyphs once indecipherable turned out to be Terran. Doorways opened. Vaults unsealed. All of it triggered by Earth's awakening. It wasn't just military. It was cultural, philosophical, technological. The galaxy began to realize something terrifying. Earth hadn't just gone to sleep. It had buried gifts and warnings everywhere. Strategos. Cale finally addressed the Council in a rare broadcast. He appeared not in armor, not behind a podium, but seated on a simple bench beneath a restored oak tree outside the ruins of Washington, D.C. "We are not your enemy," Cale began, voice calm. "But we are not your prey. We offered unity once. The galaxy chose blood." He paused, staring into the camera. "This time, we offer nothing. We will not conquer. We will not bargain. We are here. We are awake. And if you threaten us again," his eyes hardened, "you will not be given time to regret it." The message ended. The galaxy, once filled with noise and politics, fell into silence. It was then that new warnings began to appear, etched into the walls of ancient ruins, whispered by AI relics that predated Council formation, written in dead languages across forgotten stations. They all said the same thing: never wake what sleeps on Earth. But now it was too late. And the humans weren't hiding anymore. Across Terran space, a new signal pulsed into the void. Not a threat, not a beacon, but a presence. Subtle reminder to the galaxy that Earth had returned. The stars themselves seemed to quiet, not out of fear, but out of respect.